All right. All right. You good? All right. Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for coming this evening to this evening's town board meeting of Monday, December 2nd, 2024. I'm going to ask everybody to please rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, okay. 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 I'd ask our town clerk to please call the roll.
Okay. Supervisor Copa. Deputy Supervisor Lavin.
Present.
Councilmember Berger.
Here.
Councilmember Zucala.
Here.
And Councilmember Marinucci.
Here.
Okay. First item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from November 12th, 2024. I'm going to motion to adopt those as they appeared in our agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, a couple things. If you're a student and you need your time or paper signed off on, I'm going to ask you to bring them to our town attorney over here, Sam Alba, at whatever time you need to leave. The first item on our agenda, we've got a couple of public hearings. The first is a continuation of public hearing on a local law amending Chapter 204 subdivision regulations, Resolution 774. I'm going to motion to reopen that public hearing at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, members of the town board. Daniel Latowski, Assistant Planning Director. I'm here this evening to answer any questions you may have. I know Councilmember Marinucci and Councilmember Lavin were not present at the last public hearing, so I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the amendments to the subdivision regulations. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
So I'll start with questions from the board. We did hold the subdivision regulations open on account of not having a full board last meeting, but so I'll start with the board. Are there questions or comments from the board regarding those subdivision regulations as prepared? None. Okay, does anybody else from the public have any questions or comments regarding the proposed subdivision regulations subject to the public hearing we've been kind of holding open here for a couple of sessions? Seeing none, I'm going to motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We do have a decision later this evening on those subdivision regulations. The next item on our agenda is a continuation of a public hearing on Resolution 900. It's a special use permit for a Tier 3 solar energy system at 1050 New Road. It was presented to us by the engineer for the vendor, and the last meeting, I'm going to motion to reopen the public hearing.
It was actually presented by an attorney.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wasn't me.
No, I was going to say, was it you?
That's
Right, I
why
got it.
He's confused.
Okay. I apologize for that, Jeff. I'm going to motion to reopen the public hearing at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Palumbo. I'm with the law firm of Block Longo. As you've indicated, we represent the petitioner in connection with the Tier 3 solar facility that they would like to build on New Road, 1050 New Road. I wasn't at the last meeting. My colleague Matt Dubois was, but I did watch the entire video, and I saw that there were a number of comments from the neighbors, and we did our best in the interim to address those comments with the submission of a fairly detailed.
Jeff, can I interrupt you just for 1 second? So there's no video.
Is there audio, Andrea? There is audio.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry about that. We have no live stream video. There is live stream audio, so I don't know what's going on with the cameras at the moment. With that, would you please?
Sure.
continue?
So there were mainly three items. There might have been more, but the three main items that drew the most attention at the last meeting were health concerns, the agricultural proponent of the facility itself component, and the visual simulations. So we've done, in reverse order, detailed visual simulations that were submitted to the board along with the rest of the information. And those were taken before and after the project, with and without the homes that will ultimately be built along New Road. So keep in mind, there are two homes that will shield the arrays that will ultimately be there on New Road. Then there was additional simulations that were taken before and after the project, with and without the homes, with landscaping. And then finally, the third set of simulations that were submitted to you were with and without the homes, with landscaping at year 5. So we did a progression of the landscaping over a period of 5 years to indicate what the view would be from New Road. And as you can see, if you review those, it will be very dense and it'll be very difficult, especially with the houses there, to see anything with respect to the arrays themselves. We have also now confirmed that there will be sheep on the property. The petitioner has offered to employ sheep for site management as set forth in the town solar ordinance. So we will work with a local farmer to have the sheep there and do the management of the grounds themselves. And then finally, with health concerns, we've given you detailed information that address that issue, because it's not a new issue. It was the same thing, the same type of discussions that we used to have with the cell towers. It was the same issue. Was the cell tower going to provide a problem in terms of health for nearby residents? Those issues were cleared up many years ago. And same thing with the solar, the information, all the information that we've submitted indicates to you that there's certainly no health problem. With regard to glare, we've taken care of that to the best that we can with the special type of arrays that are being used. So I really have nothing else to add to that, except for the fact that I wanted everyone to keep in mind that we already have site plan approval. We have site plan and subdivision approval from the planning board, and what we're here for tonight is only for the special use permit. It's not a redesign of the subdivision or redesign of the site plan itself. And if you look at the town ordinance with respect to the criteria for special use permits, you will see that we have addressed each and every one of those issues in terms of ownership and access, site plan being required, materials to be used, decommissioning plans that were submitted, line of sight, visual simulations, all of the criteria that are set forth in the town's ordinance, in the solar law, have been addressed. So with that, I would ask the board if you have any questions.
I'll start with this board. Are there questions from the board itself? Okay. At the last meeting, Jeff, we did ultimately hold it open till this meeting. The grazing, obviously, or the active agricultural component was a question. So thank you for addressing that. And for
And the
providing us-
Amherst IDA approved the pilot.
They did. and for providing us the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, and the national, what's the other, trying to find the title of the second manual. So there's a, so evidently there are manuals on exactly how to maintain and graze sheep on this space. So thank you for the research on that as well. I'm going to ask members of the audience who have comments or questions regarding the project to please come forward and share those.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Schultz. I have experience with advocating for solar, for large solar through the United Solar Energy Supporters. We've recently rolled over into New Yorkers for Clean Energy, all on a volunteer basis, because from personal experience with solar on my own house for about 10 years, 12.09 kilowatt hours of solar, which I'm totally thrilled about. I am a huge advocate. I also have a friend who has had solar for about 40 years, and his wife, my best friend, doesn't take any prescriptions. So I really want to address the safety issues because I know there are concerns with safety issues, and that is quite a lot of myth out there. So the following information was mostly from Energy Rights Virginia, a conservative nonprofit whose mission is to inform residents with a focus on property rights and conservative ideals with an energy strategy led by a market-based approach. If you're looking for information, you look under the heading Solar 101 to find information on safe land use, property rights, and solar myth busting. I found it interesting to know that the impacts of PV technology have been studied since the 1950s. Solar panels are made of the same materials that household appliances are, such as glass, aluminum, copper, and silicone. Silicone happens to be the most common element on the Earth's crust. Other elements are minuscule and etched into the cells of the panels. The materials are sealed and encapsulated in tempered glass so they don't mix with water or vaporize into the air. A polymer sheet protects the backside of the panels. The compounds within solar panels, cadmium telluride, which is more stable than cadmium, and is used in tiny amounts and is 1/100th the toxicity of free cadmium, and variations of crystalline silicon technology do not leach or escape even in extreme weather conditions. Again, the materials inside a solar panel are solid and fully encapsulated in tempered glass. The amount of hazardous substances is well below the European Union's threshold and serve as the de facto standard for manufactured goods. The inverters and transformers installed on each pad are no different and in some cases safer than those you already own in your homes. No studies have shown any significant increase in temperature over and around a solar facility, and of course the heat quickly dissipates around sunset and completely cools overnight. EMFs, I think this is a big concern among people and a big myth. The field produced by electricity is non-ionizing radiation, meaning the radiation has enough energy to move atoms in a molecule around generating heat, but not enough energy to remove electrons from an atom or molecule or to damage DNA. EMFs for solar are actually known as ELFs, extremely low frequency, less than radio waves, infrared radiation, and visible light. We encounter these frequencies everywhere we spend time. We're exposed to EMS throughout our daily lives without negative health impact. Although Buffalo Bills wide receiver Mac Hollins might disagree with you, and henceforth goes barefoot to dissipate the exposure. Gotta love him. I'm gonna let Janet continue.
Thanks.
All right, I'll pick up where Sarah left off. Janet Lenachek. To support this aforementioned EMF data, the World Health Organization conducted studies and concluded that the relatively low voltages in a solar facility and the fact that electric fields are easily shielded by common materials such as plastic, metal, or soil means that there is no concern of negative health impacts from the electric fields generated by a solar facility. The electric fields and the magnetic fields are strong as close to the source of electric generation and weaken quickly in as little as 9 feet from the source. In fact, the magnetic field is so weak, one can place a compass on an operating solar panel and observe that the needle still points north. Standard codes require all structures, including a ground-mounted solar array, to be engineered to withstand anticipated wind speeds. The many PV mounting structures during Hurricane Sandy in 2012 suffered only minor damage. According to a leading solar tracker, Hurricane Matthew in 2016 in the Caribbean reported 0 damage to numerous systems in impacted areas. So this is just more proof that in severe weather, these can stand up very well to wind. Studies by the American Society of Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers produce no evidence of negative impact on property values to adjacent landowners. And I think this is important for people who live in Amherst to know. There's also a study by the University of Texas at Austin that produced the same results. Solar panels are easy to recycle, and there is a growing industry around that issue. First Solar, a U.S. company, has been recycling panels since 2005. The few rare precious metals are mined from the used panels and repurposed. The solar panels today should be expected to reliably and efficiently produce power for 35 years. In 2016, the U.S. Solar Energy Industry Association started a national solar panel recycling program along with many leading PV panel producers. North Carolina State University emphasizes that the risks of site contamination are much less than for most other industrial or agricultural land uses. The overall impact compared to fossil fuel-fired electric generators is overwhelmingly positive. The elimination of harmful sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and fine particulate matter makes for cleaner air and water in our community. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory and the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, both affiliates of the U.S. Department of Energy, suggest that the air quality benefits of solar are worth more than the electricity itself. Finally, bird deaths are often exaggerated and researchers are currently using AI to track and monitor bird species that are prone to diving to solar panels.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Further comments or questions on the subject?
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. I spoke about this a little bit at the last meeting. Mr. Palumbo, you mentioned 2 houses that were going to be built there. I thought it was going to be 3. Maybe I misunderstood you. I'm not sure. You did say that the various visuals you provided showed that by the end of 5 years, the exposure of the property will pretty much be limited and you won't be able to see it. So if I lived over there, I don't think I'd take any real solace in knowing that it's only going to be an eyesore for 5 years. You talked about the health ramifications of it, and you compared it to the cell industry. The reason the whole health issue went away in the cell industry is because the federal government preempted it and said that it was one thing that local governments couldn't consider. And I don't know if they've done that with the solar panel industry or not. I'm always amused when I hear people talk about market-based approaches for solar energy because it's impossible to build them and do it economically unless they're heavily subsidized. I mean, we're always saying, well, there's grants for this and there's grants for that. That's because they can't survive and compete on their own. They simply can't. I mean, if they could, they would, and they don't. you know, the other thing too, and, you know, and Jeff and I bandied about this a little bit before the meeting. You know, the other thing about them, I mean, let's face it, they only work half the day. It gets dark. They don't work at night. This is one of the cloudiest parts of the country. They don't work in cloudy weather very well either. So they don't work as well in cloudy weather. They don't, because the sun isn't as bright.
Okay.
And they don't work at night. You know, in any event, they don't work at night. So, I mean, you can store the energy and stuff like that. There are any number of other energy sources that can produce energy night and day and work far more effectively and efficiently. Again, if they worked efficiently and they were competitive, they wouldn't have to constantly be subsidized. They always have to be subsidized. They always do. In terms of their recycling, it's nice to know they're recycled. It's still a nightmare to recycle them because they have heavy metals in them, and that's difficult to recycle. It can be repurposed, sure it can, but it's expensive. And the other thing that came up at the last meeting that Mr. Palumbo didn't mention, and maybe he wasn't aware of it, was the whole issue of the removal bond and how long the removal bond was good for, and you know, did it have to be renewed annually? Because I can remember, as I said at the last meeting, it was a nightmare under the cell towers to make sure the removal bonds were constantly renewed. So I don't know what the plan is for the removal bond here. The other thing, you know, there's something, I don't know what the fascination is with sheep and solar panels. It's every time you, oh, we're going to bring in sheep. You know, I just don't understand it. I know they graze and that kind of stuff. Who's going to clean up the waste? I mean, that's been an issue that's been raised again and again. And, you know, it was an issue during the whole thing with the chicken coops back in, you know, 20 years ago when I worked here. Who was going to clean up the chicken waste? Who's going to clean up the sheep waste? And that's not inconsequential. That stuff has real consequences for people. I know my time's up. Thanks, man.
Jonathan Smith Road. I actually, speaking in favor of this project. I spoke at the planning board meeting where this project was presented. There's no wetlands on this property. The developer is respecting the SA zoning with the large plots that are being put on the property. I think the setback is probably going to be 300 or 400 feet. I'm not going to speak on EMF or solar or anything like that. Overall, I think it's a good project. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, any motion to adopt the seeker findings associated with the special.
Mr. Supervisor, we ask that you establish a decision date so that we can prepare a secret determination of environmental significance as well.
You were supposed to do that for today.
This was an open hearing. There was no directive to do that.
Requested it.
Okay, I'm going to motion to close the public hearing, set a decision date for December 16th. And I will request a final secret determination and approval authorization resolution be available for the work. Can I just be heard on that for 1 second? I will second. So on the question, sure, Mr. Palumbo. As we discussed this ad nauseum over the years, the purpose of seeker is to consider the environmental impacts at the earliest opportunity. That was already done. We have a negative declaration. We already have a negative declaration. You don't do seeker over and over and over again. You just don't. The seeker laws require you to do it at the earliest possible opportunity. That's been done. There's no reason why this can't be voted on this evening. The negative declaration has already been adopted.
I'm going to refer the town board back to what we call our town board letter. In our town board letter, we regularly ask that the town board, after they close the public hearing, to establish a decision date so that we can then prepare the secret determination of environmental significance.
Liaison, I spoke to you and the department head that I needed the resolution and the seeker on today's agenda.
With all due respect, I believe you're mistaking that for the South Linden decision that occurred last month.
I did not ask for that one.
I'm going to ask our town attorney if there is a path to a resolution for this evening or not.
I think Mr. Lukowski is right.
So, right is right.
The seeker was already taken care of.
Irregardless of seeker, there's a question about whether or not we have a resolution correct. So, I don't know, our attorney's telling us not to vote. I don't have a lot of.
Just to let everyone know, the camera is now working. I got that taken care of.
That said, so there's a motion and a second to close public hearing and set a determination. I do understand that there's a willingness by this board to take an action this evening. So, does anybody have, I don't even know if we can make them complete at this point.
I just have a question for the applicant. How does this impact the project, this delay? That's why I asked for it.
Well, as we've been saying all along, we have to have approval before the end of the year. And putting it off to the 16th gives me a great deal of anxiety. Because if we don't have it approved on the 16th, then the whole deal goes away, all the money that's been spent, everything dies. We don't have it approved by the end of the year.
I understand the concern. I also understand the process issue. Like I said, I made a motion to close public hearing, set a decision making. So I'll look the rest of the board. There's a second. So is there anything further on the question? I'm going to call for a vote on that motion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I know the 16th is going to cause you anxiety.
I'm just gonna add one caveat. If we have a snowstorm and that meeting gets canceled, we have to set a special meeting to vote on this.
I don't foresee.
I'm just throwing that out there. That has happened before.
Okay. On that note, we have a couple of development review actions on the agenda this evening. The first is Resolution 973, seeker determination on Chapter 204 of the Amherst Town Code, amendments to subdivision regulations. I'm going to motion to adopt the seeker findings associated with the amendments to subdivision regulations at this time. All in favor? Next, I'm going to take motion Resolution 938, an adoption of local law to amend Chapter 204 of the Town Code subdivision regulations, CTA 2024-01. Second. All in favor? Aye. Next item on our agenda is public expression. Before we get into public expression, I do think that there's a number of people who may be here this evening to talk about a couple of proposed actions on the agenda tonight, dealing with 33 acres on Maple Road. So I do want to just go through property itself is 33 acres. And for the past about year, we have been working to figure out what the future of that site would be, and essentially how we can secure, either through lease extension or through purchase, the 10 acres that the softball sit on, plus the open buffer area, which is actually residential zoning to the west of those ball fields. So we have, as a town, been working with a number of interested agencies who have talked about building a sports facility in that vicinity, in that area. A couple of the agencies had taken some different steps forward with it. One private investment group has gone all the way through feasibility analysis with the project, and we're looking at a way to build out an indoor sports facility in the area of our Northtown Center, or the Northtown. This goes back to some projects suggested in some master planning efforts from 2020 to 2021. It also reflects our economic development plan and the findings associated with our interest in sports medicine related to youth sports, and need for youth sports facilities and activities. So as we were moving forward through a project process, again with the intent of maintaining the 4 softball diamonds on the former gun club property, we made some inroads with American Campus Communities, which is the organization which purchased this site back in 2012 from Benderson Development for $10.5 million. That property has sat vacant with no redevelopment on it, and our assessed value and for tax purposes and our ability to generate tax revenue kind of reflect that vacancy. The site was remediated in full by prior owners, and as we're exercising some ideas about how to extend or purchase a portion of the acreage, ACC and their parent company, Blackstone, asked about our potential interest in purchasing all of the acreage. The town has, like I said, entertained working with private sector investment to build a complex around or near that facility. We moved forward with a conversation and suggested that we might be willing to act as custodian for this process. ACC has an interest in closing, or has an interest in completing a transaction, I should say, within the calendar year. I will leave it up to a lot of people to think about why that might be the case. But we were able to reach an accord with them, coming right down to the last minute last week, on an acquisition of 33 acres for $5.725 million, or about $174,000 per acre, or per acre on the project. For us, that was a good number. It reflects where we think the market should be for an open site there. Our goal basically is to purchase the entire site so that ACC complete its transaction, and then act as holding agency basically while private sector investment group prepares a transaction for purchase of the site through the first quarter of next year. So this is an sports facility, which will be available to schools, to town activity, to private clubs and organizations, and ultimately make our town indoor sports offerings much more robust, and be able to accommodate things like indoor track meets, which add to our overall economic development. Costs. So the project, again, it's a town purchase at $5.725 million that needs to be completed in calendar year 24, with the idea of completing the transaction in Q1 of 2025, so that the town is basically made whole on our costs related to purchasing care. So I know that's a mouthful, but there's a lot of information that's out there in parts and pieces. I wanted to be able to just explain it in my own words. It is fast hitting, obviously transacting with the private sector, real estate, means some late nights for attorneys. Our attorneys been diligent about that right through last week, right up against the holiday. So I'd like to thank them for their efforts on that. Now that said, I'm going to motion to open public expression at this time.
Second.
All in favor? There's a list that I have in front of me, and I suspect there's another list. I'm going to start with John Scraper.
John Schraber, 234 Mount Vernon Road. At the town board meeting on 10/28/24, I asked Councilperson Berger why Troy and Banks was not used in advising the town on the LED project. Ms. Berger had stated that during the vetting process for choosing a vendor, the Troy Banks Group was not chosen, and the town had a very accurate accounting of lights through the town's GIS process. Ms. Berger, were you referring to the poll count provided at a town board work session on 9/12/16? At that session, Wendell gave a count of 9,408 lights, compared to National Grid's count of 9,413. Wendell stated they could not account for the 5-light difference as they used the town's GIS and did spot checks. Are you telling us that you were satisfied with the spot check by Wendell? Has anyone done a hard count of these lights? Shouldn't the town have an accurate count when spending $33 million? Did this same company advise the town of the condition of these poles? Let's look at a sample of what the residents purchased for $33 million. Can you put up those poles up? There's a lot of poles in this town that are in the same condition. If these poles were purchased in as-is condition, shouldn't the town at least have inspected them and tried to negotiate the price? A $33 million project bonded would cost the taxpayers $48 to $52 million. If we have 9,408 lights as per the Wendell count, that is a cost of $5,100 to $5,500 per pole. Was this project a wise use of taxpayer funds? Speaking of wise use of taxpayers' dollars, was it prudent to spend money for 2 new pickup trucks for the highway supervisor and his deputy? Let's take a look at a couple of vehicles employees are using. That's duct tape on the roof. The other truck. These are just 2 pieces of equipment that were in front of my house. That's embarrassing for this town. Wouldn't it be better to buy up-to-date equipment for people doing their job instead of new high-end take-home vehicles for department heads? While I'm up here, I would like to ask this entire board a question. Does this town have a residency requirement for town employees, yes or no? If there is, why is there upwards of 10 current employees that are living outside the town? And one particular general crew chief in the facilities management department who lives in North Tonawanda is slated to get a $10,000 stipend in 2025. Is this stipend for the extra gas he needs to travel from Northtown or Lana to Amherst? The town supervisor had mentioned that if people were living outside the town, it should be reported to HR. Recently, I had learned that the head of HR remarked they are not going to bother looking into employees that live outside the town. Is this true? Thank you.
Joe Wojtowicz. Joe Wojtowicz, 35 Cyrus. We're at it again. It was only a year and a month ago when the town board held a special meeting to approve the 2024 tax increase with little notice to the public and slid it in at 4:30 when most people would not be able to attend. Now we get to have a bond resolution posted the day before Thanksgiving involving a land purchase for $5.9 million. I seem to see a pattern here. The latest budget was approved just a few weeks ago, and now you want to push in a change under the cover of holidays, trying as hard as you can to hide this from the public view and investigation. Now, the one anomaly I notice here is that the new bond resolution, for some reason, does not include a permissive referendum. We were through this last spring when the residents submitted a petition for a vote on the music fair project, which the town then quickly dropped. Most would see a tie-in between the two projects, and to alleviate the chance of another petition, the town chose instead to bypass the referendum. Now, New York State law requires a permissive referendum to be included based on certain bond criteria, one of which is that it may only be applied for bonds of over 5 years maturity. On the current bond, a 5-year maximum maturity is fixed in the resolution. I wonder if this was a standard for most bonds, so I did a survey of the last 2 years to see how prevalent it is. Of the 59 bonds I found, only 12 were under the 5-year limit and required no referendum. Then we looked at what those bonds financed. 3 were for vehicle purchases, 2 for tree maintenance, 2 for sewer work, 1 for golf course work, and 1 for a bike path. The highest value was $500,000. 12 bonds over the 5-year maturity limit have no permissive referendum. Those were included 6 for sewers, 2 for water lines, 2 for vehicles, 1 for street lights, and 1 for parking lot maintenance. Now we looked at the projects that did include the referendum. How about a curb replacement for $50,000 or road striping for $100,000? The Senior Center Cafe gift shop for $200,000 had a referendum option. A roadways reconstruction bond for $250,000 also included that right. So where does the current bond fit in here? My conclusion that it doesn't. Amherst spent $7.8 million for the Westwood property last year that had a referendum option. Yet under the same, almost same criteria, the current bond does not. The only conclusion I made here is that there's a cover-up, that the town is trying to push through the purchase without allowing the residents their due rights for state law. This is not the way an ethical board should work. It is the way that underhanded criminals deal with government money. I hope that those that fall into the second category will be investigated and criminally charged. Chris Strangowski.
Mr. Investigate, I probably would have had the same comments as the last speaker, except that earlier this evening I came in and supervisor was having a conversation with Dennis Hogan, and explained very civilly what his plan was for this property. Now, I'm very familiar with this property. I used to shoot out there when it was a shooting club. And it's sat empty, vacant, for well over 20 years, 15, 20 years. So, what really is happening here, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is really a short-term flip as I understand it. The town is going to buy this property, enter into an agreement with 716 Group, these doctors. I left the prospectus back at the chair. I got the prospectus. They've been sending it all over the town, the various organizations and investors. The concept is, I understand the concept. The bottom line of this is the town is going to be able to control that property. My concern is this. The town's going to spend $5.8 million, and Blackstone, which owns this property, wants to take, the supervisor won't say, but I will, they have the opportunity to take capital losses, and they're a very large investment fund. It's just the way they operate. They're going to take the loss. They bought it for $10 million. They're selling it for 5.8, so there's a capital loss of 3.2 million approximately. So they'll take that on their books. My concern is this, all right? And I understand the positive thing about this is the town gets to control this property. Anybody can buy this property, and who knows what they're going to put there. My concern is this once again. What is the guarantee that 716 is going to be able to come up with the money in March to buy this back from the town and the costs associated with it? Because if this deal falls through for them, if they don't have the investment funds to be able to purchase this from the town, now the town owns the property. And what guarantees are we going to have that this board or future boards decide to put something there that maybe the town is not going to want? Do we put a conservation easement on the property? Do we deed this property to recreational use only? I've got the concept drawings. It looks like a wonderful facility, but I don't live across the street from it either. So, I think it'll be heavily used. But I think the entire project, I understand it now, and I know my time's just about up, that this is for everybody in the audience. This is really a short-term flip. The town's going to expedite the sale of this property, and then the doctors are going to buy it back from the town, covering the costs, and move forward with their project. And that's really the summation of the whole thing. Thank you. Anything further?
Matt Plunkett, Northville Drive. What we're doing here is we're buying back girls' softball fields the town used to own years ago that sold to other developers so that they could build on town property, and we sold the property to them. Now we're buying back what we already owned. We sold it away. That hardly seems like a bargain to me. And to tell you the truth, I don't know that town government ought to be in the business of helping outfits like Blackstone get end-of-year tax write-offs. I don't think that's what the town government is. Town of Amherst ought to be here in order to serve the residents of the town of Amherst. We saw a picture up there a little bit ago of town trucks falling apart. The street lighting system we bought for $33 million that's in decay. We're going to take this land, and as Chris just said, maybe it's a short-term flip, although I'm certain there's no written agreement in place that says 716 will buy the land from the town, or if there's in written form agreed upon sale price. How do we know that we're not going to end up having to sell it to them for $4 million to get it off our hands, or we can keep it and do what with it?
Yeah.
This is a project, and I said this at another meeting a few weeks back in looking at what the town of Tonawanda did with Paddock Park over there, comparing it with this is all over again.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. My name is Michelle Magnato. I'm the Commissioner of Amherst Girls Softball League. We're located at 101 North Maplemere in Amherst. And I'm here to actually advocate in favor of the purchase of the land because we are in need to continue to have the 8 diamonds that we have. Currently, 4 of the diamonds are on lease, and that lease is going to expire. We have 638 girls for town residents that play in the spring and in the fall. We have 17 travel teams and slated for 19 next year. We also run the Aunt Rosie's International Softball Tournaments, which have teams from Virginia and all up and down the East Coast, Quebec, Michigan, brings in millions of dollars of revenue to the town and also helps to fund our house league. We have the Queen of Diamonds softball classic tournament, and we have 2 Lightning Fall Classic tournaments, all that benefit the girls that are locally within this region. Having 8 diamonds is crucial, and I don't want to have an issue where we lose the lease. So purchasing the land will secure those 4 additional fields that were just built and ensure that our league will continue to prosper and benefit to this league and the town. Thank you.
Dennis Hogan, 216 California Drive. Brian came up earlier, spoke to me about this project, what he's got in mind. I listened to all the people here tonight, and I saw some pictures up here about deteriorated streetlights and pickup trucks that our highway department is driving around in. And I know that there's a lot of things that need to be fixed in this town, and I think it would be better to borrow $6 million and start, buying some new equipment and rebuild the infrastructure in this town. I don't see where we have to help out real estate moguls and developers like that. Let the private sector do what the private sector wants to do. They have plenty of money, and there's programs that they can get into that need money, but I don't think they really do. I think the situation is we may actually get in a bad spot holding the bag if we buy this thing for $6 million and we're stuck with it. Or they turn around and they say, well, we can't get the funding for $6 million. We'll give you $4 million or $5 million. I think it's pretty risky for the town. You said you don't have anything in writing. You got a verbal agreement. I mean, I don't like verbal agreements for $6 million. Tough, I guess I get another. Did you ring the bell? I didn't hear it. No, it didn't ring. Oh, great. I know it's been a few weeks. We didn't have a meeting, second meeting in November. Also, I don't like the timing of this, that you do it like during Thanksgiving and, and Christmas is upon us, because that's usually what politicians do. They try to sneak stuff in at the holidays, and I don't like it. I think it stinks. You're welcome. And I just think it's bad policy, Nobody's paying attention. People are, got family or they're leaving it, they're going out of town. And it's the same thing as when COVID, you didn't hold meetings. You didn't have, you had one meeting in November. It doesn't look right to me. I get a bad feeling about this, but who knows? You're going to shove it down our throat anyway. So, the other thing I wanted to mention was there was 2 stabbings recently at the Red Roof Inn, and I don't know if the captain that's here from the police department can answer any questions. Is he able to answer questions, Brian? Brian? Well, he's a captain, he should be able to answer some questions, shouldn't he?
Welcome to try and ask him questions later on if he's able to answer. I'm sure.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for that. What happened to my microphone? Anyway, I'm really concerned about these people at the Red Roof Inn. There's been rapes, there's been shootings, there's been stabbings. Can you explain to us what's going to happen with these people?
Back up during your second.
Thank you.
There's an eviction, I think, at the end of this month.
How you doing? Mike Jeffers, live at 89 MacArthur. I'm just, I want to speak in favor of Amherst Girls Softball League and retaining the 4 diamonds that were put in. I also understand other town residents with their concerns for rising taxes and transparency and things like that. We all do. I am just asking, as a father of 3 little girls that play in that league, when I see the boys get everything and the girls get nothing, and that needs to change. The world has changed. People, people pay for your children to have these amenities. People need to pay for my kids to have amenities. That's how it goes. I live in Williamsville, even though it's much more expensive than I live in the town of Tonawanda or in the city of Buffalo. That's life, right? You pay taxes. I understand when I retire in 5 years, I'll probably start complaining about how much I don't have anymore now that I'm retired. And I understand all of that. But I hear lots of people complaining about kids sitting at home on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram every single day. Well, Amherst Girls Softball gets these little girls out minimum 3 nights a week. And they're actually being social with other kids instead of just talking to them through social media. This is important. That plot of land, when I moved up here from Brooklyn in 1993, was just a shooting range and it just sat around. And lots of West New York is just turning into North Jersey with tons of empty strip malls. This is a vibrant area. It's very important for these kids, these girls, to become strong women, confident women. I understand it may not seem to everybody as transparent as you would like it, and I hope it does turn out to be as transparent as the board is making it sound. But I just want to go on record saying that I don't want to see this lease fall apart and then my girls don't have those other 4 beautiful diamonds to play on. I just think we have a service that needs to be paid as a community to the kids who are here and coming up now. So I just want to make sure that the board and everybody in the town knows that there are parents that we value these softball diamonds, we value AGSL. We understand the importance to this community. We want our children to stay here once they get out of college. We need these things. I chose to live in Williamsville because of the amenities. If they go away, I should just move somewhere else. And I don't want to. I've been here 30 years. Williamsville, Amherst is fantastic because of things like this. So that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Marjola Bacone, Ranch Trail West. I have 2 little girls as well, 6 and 5 years old. I don't think that this is attack on the girls' league or the softball leagues, right? We are all taxpayers. This is happening at the last hour, right? So this all happened. I was born and raised on North Maplemere. I used to live there. We used to have the Pepsi Center. We used to have the Northtown Center. That used to be all green space. There used to be softball fields galore, right? So this all stemmed from the original swap lands where UB is there now. There's no parking available for UB. There's patients that are there don't even have enough parking to begin with. In reality, like, it's a terrible location for that medical campus. So now at the backs of putting families against families for the softball courts, you're doing a last minute effort to try to secure funding for a private entity. I wanted to buy some duplexes, I wanted to buy some single family homes, but guess what? When I went to the bank, they wouldn't give me the money. So I couldn't buy something. Are you gonna help me invest in Amherst for my single family homes? and just don't understand why Amherst continues to keep supporting these private businesses. It's a lot of money that you're asking. Nobody knows like the tax implications on that. Oh, I'm supposed to award you guys that, what was it, only $27 this year? It wasn't $27. We had that 12% increase that carried over. Give me a break, guys. And how am I supposed to actually trust you guys that like this deal is going to come through in March or April? You're saying that the town attorney is doing a deal within the next couple of weeks, but yet you have people here that have been waiting for months on resolutions? Give me a break, guys. You guys are using our tax dollars to build your game of private development. It sucks. Our taxes are high. Our school taxes are high. It's out of hand. And the only reason why we kiboshed Westwood was because we had that first referendum. We were able to get the signatures. Who rolls the dice with $5 million with like a handful of weeks without like public comment? That's a lot of money. There's no contract. We don't know what UP's going to buy it for. Somebody else made that other comment that says, what if they don't get the funding? Then what ends up happening with that property? Again, I'm not here going against the girls' league, right? I don't think anybody is challenging that. But why don't we look at renewing the lease so the girls can continue to keep playing, slow down, obviously, the borrowing of the money, and let the two developers figure it out. Nobody helped me with my taxes. Nobody's helping me dump and, save under capital gains. It just sounds shady. We just don't trust you guys to make decisions on behalf of the taxpayers.
When those ball fields were put in, we put a lot of money in that. Supposedly, UBMD was buying the land and that money was gonna go because you had to move the ball fields because you destroyed the other ball fields. And plus, the lights were not taken down and we can't watch TV at night in our living room. But if you're gonna do something, at least do it right. Plus, the planning director talked and said that those ball fields don't belong there because it's dangerous. I'd like to know what that comment was. It was at a meeting a few months ago. Go back and look at past meetings. It's dangerous because it's piss poor planning. They park on the grass. They park on Donna Reed, which is off of Maple, which is a narrow street. And if somebody makes a right turn there, the cars parked on two sides. Somebody's got to back up, and usually it's the person on Maple Road because the other ones are farther down the street. You have, I don't know what your thinking is for this town, but it sucks. And then you talk about, you're going to be building on there. You talk about 1 million trees. All the trees that are being cut down, is it 1 million plus? Because they're not being replaced, because there's a lot of trees in that area. I don't understand your planning. It stinks. And getting back to what someone else said about residency. There's a posting for lawyers, and it says the residencies may not be required. Why are we paying people we would be paying them such high salaries, and they don't have to live in Amherst and put up with your tax increases and your reassessments?
Good evening, town board members. My name is Smith Northwell. This is the first time I've ever written down my comments on a piece of paper with all sorts of questions about what you're going to do before the $5.8 million bond issue. It was pretty critical, but I don't get a chance to ask any of the questions because you preempted most of them. What I don't understand is why you pick out a few individuals to fill in and then not fill in the town residents ahead of time. Why we're the last? We don't matter. There are few people that you know out there, your buddies. They get to know, they get to be told. But we don't get a word on any of this stuff. I didn't get a word on any of this stuff. So $5.8 million is probably, for you guys, it's just a bunch of chump changes. What we can go and grab and use for our benefit, and then you'll get done. If everybody ever remembers how the UBMD deal was done years ago, it's a real exercise in deception. How these things appeared automatically on agendas. The town board recommends to UBMD that it act for a this, that, and the other. It happens fast, quick, and fast. There's a relationship between the town of Amherst and 716 that we do not know about, and we want to know about the details. You need to come in sometime to this place with these people, sit them down, and walk them through everything that happened with this deal. Period. You need to do that, or it indicates to us that you don't give a blank about the residents of Amherst. That's a damn dangerous thing to happen when you don't trust the people who elected you. You're in a bad position for now and for your future. And frankly, I was on your side. You lost me. I was in your corner, and you betrayed us. You betrayed me. What do you think is going to feel to everybody else out there that's thinking the same thing? You're not doing what you should be doing. Asking the people what they want to know, and then delivering to the people the information they asked for. You're not doing it. Just do it for your friends. That's not the way to do this. That's politically stupid. Thank you very much.
Arnold, 92 Chateau Terrace. I'm going to start out quoting from the article online in the news. American Campus Communities, or ACC, bought the former gun club at 330 Maple Road and an adjoining home at 218 Maple for $10.5 million in 2012. The company had purchased that 33-acre property from Benderson Development, which has struggled for years to bring to life a mixed-use project there. You've got ACC, who sold this property for 12 years and done nothing with it. You've got Benderson, who could develop anything anywhere, and they couldn't do anything with it. Now, we're going to give one of the largest companies in the country a tax write-off. Comes out of our pocket, either way.
Yeah.
It's our federal tax dollars, state tax dollars, whatever, if they get to write it off.
Can't hide. We're gonna find out.
We bought Westwood, 170 acres. For what, $7 million? Now you're gonna spend $6 million for 33 acres. Is that a good deal? We bought the Boulevard Mall to run interference for the
Private developers.
exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I mean now we're going to run it for Blackstone and UBMD. I mean, that's not your job. It's not our tax dollars. We don't support businesses like that. I don't know. You guys would throw away money like it's nothing. It's not your money. What do you care? I mean, how much are you getting paid by these companies? Are they promising you jobs in the future? I mean, what the hell's going on? You're supposed to take care of the people of Amherst, not the private developers.
Right, we're supposed to take care of the Little League. With the little
And as far as the Little League goes, where were the people supporting the Little League? Where were they when we were getting approval of $9 million for Damon College's athletic field? Couldn't that money have been spent for the women's and girls softball year after year after year? We knock knock you down, you just get up and do the same thing all over again.
Shelley Schatz. I just, not to talk about this actual issue, but last year, the residents of the town did a referendum. And we did the referendum really for the residents' benefit, but more importantly, for the board's benefit. To really see what it is that's important to the people. And the response was amazing. They want to be included. They want to hear about it first. They want an opinion. And I'm glad we did that because as an example, I started reaching out to some people at the time about the musical fair. I think I might have even said it here. That it belonged downtown by Shades. I reached out to people from downtown. Isn't it amazing that they're in Shades now, next door, and they're going to be there for 10 years, and they're leasing that space. See, if you ask questions, you may not get the answer that you want, but you get the answer that's best for the majority. And at that time, last year, and you went into the budget process, and the way that whole mess happened, remember a few of you were here, we were so discouraged. I, deep down in my heart, really thought that after all of that, we learned something. And when I heard about this, and when some people from baseball started sending me emails, you know about this was a month ago. You're going to repack and you're going to find out what they're talking about. That's when you should have reached out to the public. You have all these committees, they don't meet, they don't accomplish much. I think before this year is over, you can put this on hold a bit, but put the government groups that are meant to help the people, to help the board elected officials, hear what they want. Because those committee members, not political people, people that know and want to get engaged. So, yeah, we care about our kids. We care about each other. But you guys didn't listen to anything. And that, when you go home tonight, think about that. Because you got little kids, they're getting older, God knows what's going to happen and when. And are you prepared? Because most of the residents aren't prepared when you throw stuff at them like this.
Janice Herman, Huxley Drive. I'm a resident of 54 years. My husband, a resident of 57 years. And we are thrilled to be part of the town of Amherst. We appreciate it. Even in our retirement, as you say, the taxes go up. This is where we want it to be. And we've spent our life here trying to do our part to make it a better place to live.
You can afford it.
I would like to not be interrupted. Thank you. I want to commend the people who have worked so diligently for the girls, for the softball teams. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank everyone on this board who has worked so diligently to provide wonderful opportunities in good spaces for our children. We've gone to an awful lot of games over the years in many, many different towns. And finally, through Supervisor Coppola's work and the board, we are seeing the quality improving in our facilities rising to the level of others. This is Amherst, for God's sakes. Why would anybody in a town this size be against a cultural gem coming to our town? You could say you want a musical fair downtown. Well, all of us, we do go, we're just there. We go to all of the things in town. We've got memberships at everything. But the thing is, not everybody can do that. Why do we have to travel outside our town to have a good theater? A respectable, professional theater? And why do the people who come to these meetings only know how to say no? I'm here because of the positivity of Amherst, because of the growth, and for the vision that Amherst has had with this board to provide wonderful opportunities for generations to come. I'm not going to be here that much longer. It's not going to affect me, but I want to see the legacy, and you don't get legacy by saying no.
Hey, anybody else?
Julie Stein, 49 Heritage Road East.
Just pick one up a little bit.
Julie Stein, 49 Heritage Road East. I have been here before and supported the Amherst Girls Softball League. I just want to remind everybody that not only does Amherst Girls Softball League provide a needed service to the town, we are the only girls organization that is only for girls. We contribute to the tax base of Western New York and of Amherst by bringing in teams from out of town. And it is equating to at least $1 million a year. That should give people solace in wanting to support Amherst Girls Softball and keep the 8 Diamonds.
Dave Howard, on Edinburgh Red Cross. I just want to, hopefully you can answer my questions while I'm up here. I just want to make sure I understand this for a moment or so. We're buying the property, we're theoretically selling it to somebody else. So do we own the property still, or do they own it now? We're paying for the property, 5 point whatever million. Next year, sometime, somebody's going to reimburse us for that money. Do they own the property or do we own it?
Buying property.
Okay, so we don't own it anymore. Maple Road, we will not own anymore.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure because I'm getting.
I'll explain it again after the end of this.
Okay. So let's just say that we don't own it anymore. So girls softball, we don't own it anymore. Yes or no? No.
I'm going to go through it again.
Well, you went through it, and I didn't understand it, and people are coming up here and saying we have control over it, but if we don't own it, how do we have control over it?
I'll go through everything.
Okay. And just a side note, as you're going through it, will we actually own the property that those new ball diamonds are on now? If they own the rest of it, will we take control of that property? Just answer that with the rest of it. So my other thing then, after you're going to answer that, the golf architect that came here, that we paid we're paying $250,000 for, that we gave him no direction whatsoever, and he comes back with his first iteration of design, and it's moving things left and right all over the place that we could not do. So he comes back with
some questions to give him more direction that we should have given him in the beginning, and nobody's answered those questions. He was gonna come back in September, and he didn't come back because nobody answered those questions. So we're throwing money out, $250,000 to this guy, and we're not giving any direction, and we're not helping him with what he's looking for. I wish we would get our act together where we do these things and get it done and get it moving forward. So we still got a bridge that's out, been out all year long, and you say you're waiting for him to come back, but he's not doing anything with that bridge. He's trying to get the golf course usable when it rains out and he can get people out there. So I just think we need to direct what we're spending money on already and get it done correctly.
Over the last year since I've been here about the sound system, it works a lot better if we can keep the other noise in the auditorium quiet. So the feedback we're getting up here makes it harder for us to hear, and I know that the residents have been extremely concerned about being able to hear what's said at the microphone. So if we can all just kind of keep our comments quiet so that everybody can hear, it's been a major concern for the residents. Thank you.
They'll be quiet for me.
Thank you.
So we had this evening one of our councilwomen suggest holding a special board meeting for a separate project.
Name, please.
Oh, Jonathan Rich, Smith Road. And I think it's, we've got two projects in front of the board right now that are both time sensitive. And I think it would be admirable if this vote was held maybe at a special board meeting sometime before the end of the year, rather than, voting this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I have a motion to close this round of public expression.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Let me go back to this again, because there's a question. So, again, the town would be purchasing 33 acres of land. We need to control 10 acres of land for studied the Amherst economy, the future Amherst economy, and looked at our specialties in Amherst in the healthcare sciences of sports medicine at Neiman, of orthopedic and neurologic specialties associated with the University of Buffalo, and with all the skilled nursing from UVL to UD to SUNY Erie. They came back and said, you have a future here if you provide for robust youth sports investment, and if you work with basically touting down to provide sports excellence combined with orthopedic and neurologic specialties. That's documented in our KG's report. Again, I didn't think youth sports was going to be a portion of where we ended up with that. We're moving forward with our medical spine component previously, but it's valid. In the center for the universe in Amherst on youth sports and orthopedics happens to be Maple Road. Neurologics, Sheridan Drive, orthopedics, right in that corridor. So property and the investment of time and effort and funding for short term make a lot of sense. I heard Joe Voinovich said it doesn't fit with the rest of your borrowing because it's unlike a lot of the rest of our borrowing. The rest of our borrowing is based on town capital investments over a long period of time. This is an opportunistic purchase of land at a very good value with very good prospects and partners that can come forward and do some amazing things here in Amherst to complement the sports culture that we've already invested heavily in and that we continue to invest in. So that's where we are. That's why it's on the agenda today. That's why we're moving forward with respect to the idea of could you hold a special meeting. Got a big private sector firm that we're negotiating with. We already have to deal with our business end in public meetings, trying to do that and hold a private sector deal together with more time and more leeway just doesn't work. We want this at the price that we want it at, and we want to ensure that we lock this thing in. They have an interest in selling by year's end, so here we are. I'm very, like I said, I think this is a very good opportunity. I think that we have land here that is extremely valuable to the town either way. And that's why we're moving forward. So the first item on our rest of our agenda this evening is the consent agenda. I would ask our town clerk to please read the consent agenda.
Supervisor Copeland, 1, 2, Deputy Supervisor Lavin, 1, Councilman Berger, 1, Town Attorney, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Town Clerk, 1, 2, 3, 4, Building Maintenance, 1, 2, Controller, 1, 2, Contract Compliance, 1, Engineering, 1, 2, Highway, 1, 2, 3, Human Resources, 1, 2, 3, Information Technology, 1, 2, Planning, 1, Police, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Senior Services, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sewer Plant, 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Recreation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Communications, 1, consent. 2, refer to attorneys. 3, refer to attorney. 4, refer to attorney. 5, refer to attorney. 6, refer to attorney. 7, refer to attorney. And 8, refer to attorney.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to adopt tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The two resolutions that are in front of us, Resolution 943, which is the acquisition of real property, 2018 and 330 Maple Road, purchase agreement, CRS 5220
22nd, the Buffalo News reported that Erie County is considering withholding $1 million of mortgage tax revenue from the city, towns, and the NFTA. This potential loss of revenue for the town of Amherst could have a $72,000 negative impact on the 2025 town budget. It's time to look for areas to cut costs so residents do not have to pay for more fiscal mismanagement. One area that needs to be addressed is cutting the extravagant cost of patronage jobs handed out as political favors. An example is the town of Amherst Deputy Highway Superintendent position. The individual currently holding this position worked for the Amherst Highway Department and retired in October 2021. After working on the Highway Superintendent's campaign, he was rehired into his newly created position at an annual salary of $77,210. It should be noted that the position of Deputy Highway Superintendent was created under Resolution 2023-989 on December 4th, 2023, after the current Highway Superintendent won the election. I have a resolution here which was adopted unanimous by this town board for that position. The mover was Brian Culpa, and the seconder was Jackie Berger. This is disgusting. The town residents simply cannot afford this level of favoritism and fiscal mismanagement to pay back friends and family. The results of the 2024 national elections have sent a clear message to public officials that voters want wasteful government spending eliminated. This is just one of many examples of abuse of Amherst residents' tax dollars. It's time to cut the wasteful spending out of our government. End of letter. This town administration is marred by overspending, lack of transparency, and backdoor deals. All that at the expense of taxpayers while ignoring the basic needs of the town. According to a Town of Amherst debt overview presentation dated 9/16/24, this town has a current debt load of $178 million. By this board's own admission, part of the 11.4 tax increase was due to an inherited deficit and high interest rates. If this is the case, why is the town borrowing another $6 million for our land purchase? Thank you. My favorite subject, you all voted in consent this afternoon, the golf fees for Amherst golf courses. And we're all smiling. I'm going to start out just asking, I'm going to ask each council member, I'll start with Councilmember Marinucci. Do you have a year-to-date revenue and expense sheet on the golf operations in the town of Amherst? Yes or no? That's all I'm asking.
We answer everything at the end. Chris, we answer at the end. You know that.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll ask all of you the same thing. Ms. Berger, have you seen the operating expenses and revenue 2024, January to October 31st for the golf course operations? No. How about Deputy Supervisor Lavin? Have you seen them?
Chris, what's your question?
The question is, why are we raising the fees? We're now at a record high. Matter of fact, it costs more to get a season pass in our golf courses than our town taxes, the line item town taxes. To give you an example, you got 3 county workers here, county employees. Elmer Meadows, $460. Town of Amherst, now $795. Grover Cleveland, right on the border of Amherst, season pass, $360. Town of Amherst, $795. You approved today. Senior passes are double what they are at all their municipal golf courses. This has gone on every single year. Whether you like it or not, this is a hidden tax on residents. So anybody who plays golf in this town who thought they were getting a $27 tax decrease, if you're a golfer, you just got a tax increase because you increased your fees $50. This has been going on year after year after year. It's ridiculous. All I want to know is show me a financial statement on the golf facilities to justify why we are so high with our fees at the golf course. I met the general manager over there last year. He said, my golf cart revenue is, I've never seen anything so low. I said, because you have the highest prices of any golf course in the area. What do you think's going to happen? They're not going to take these golf carts when you're charging such a high rate. I just, hopefully we'll have some answers, because this is just another example of tax and spend in this town, whether it's in fees or other tax increases. We've had it. The people of this town are fed up with this board, whether it's a hidden tax or actual taxes. Thank you.
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive, to the supporters of the Amherst girls softball. No one's saying that we shouldn't buy the 10 acres we need to control the fields that are there now. Point is, we own the fields, we sold them, and now we're buying them back. That said, if we have to buy the 10 acres to support the softball, that's well worth doing, and the town could do that without buying the rest of that parcel. And if they couldn't enter into a negotiated deal to do it, they can condemn it. If they condemned Boulevard Mall to benefit Jamal, they ought to be able to condemn that property to benefit Amherst girls softball. The supervisor mentioned the consultant's report about concentrating on sports excellence in the town as one of the principal assets of the town moving forward, with sports medicine and all the associated things attached there too. And what has the town board done? They took the Edwardsville Community Center, which is now empty, I believe, except for O'Connell and Company Theater, and they get it for about a year. No one's against theaters. What we're against is spending $11 million to build a theater and then give it away. That's what the musical fair thing was all about. We were going to get $1 a year for that. We're spending, when it's all said and done, we're going to be spending $10 million more or less for Royal Park. Because I don't know if there's any indication of whether Damon's ever going to get that HECAP grant or not. And in any event, the HECAP is taxpayer money anyhow, so that's coming out of our pockets as well. But that's an athletic facility. Granted, it's going to be a wonderful athletic facility. And what did we do with it? We turned around and basically gave almost complete control of it to a private university. And with respect to this deal over the gun club, if Blackstone is in such a heated rush to get rid of it by the end of the year, why doesn't 716 go to them and buy it directly from them instead of dragging the town in the middle of it? That way we wouldn't have to step through all these ugly public meetings where people actually get to see what's going on.
Joe Wojtowicz. This is the first I learned about this land purchase, and one of the details I learned about this has got me really upset. But what really gets me upset more is what I don't know about it. Now let me give you a little background. Suppose remember, a lot of you remember back last December when the town announced they got a $31 million grant from the state. It's publicized in all the media. It was for the Boulevard Mall Sewer Project. But what they didn't tell you was I found out by reading through the agenda minutes and all of the forms in there. There was a form that the supervisor was supposed to sign and return, but it was not a form for the acceptance of the grant. It was a form for the application for the grant. And it was on the premise that the Empire State Development, ESD, Board of Directors was to approve the grant by, and the projected date was maybe March 2024. So I started checking the agenda minutes from the ESD going on from there. Went through March, April, May, June. Didn't see any mention at all of the grant. So I finally sent a form request in the ESD on this, and they responded a week later saying they had no documentation indicating the acceptance of the grant. So I tried tried to contact the Economic Development Department here, who was the go-between between the town and ESD. They refused to respond to my emails. So I filled out a FOIA request on it last month. They came back, they said they had no documentation on it, but that could be approved sometime soon by ESD. So in other words, the town lied to everybody in the county, lied to town residents here that they were getting the money from the state, and they were not getting it, and it's not been approved, and it may be denied. Now, I'm worried about what's going on with this other project. What are we going to find out later that we didn't know about that's really going to trip us up?
Good evening, board members, my name is Don Smith, North Lawn. I think the thing that bothers me the most is that I wanted this board to be a responsive board. I wanted this board to be a good board. I wanted this board to be a board that was transparent. Oh, sorry about that. I wanted this board to be a good board, and frankly, I wanted to be able to trust this board. I really did. I really did. I wanted them to be considerate of the residents first. You're not in a business. You're an elected official. You have responsibility according to the election law. Even if that's not convincing, I think a personal issue of your own personal integrity should say people come first. I think that's important for them. What bothers me the most is you killed my wanting to believe in you, and you hurt me by proving that I can't trust you. I don't like that. I want to trust this group, but you can't give me that because I don't feel you're transparent. I don't feel you consider the people first, maybe last, but this is the issue. If you don't have the trust of people that elected you, I think you're in trouble, okay? I think we're in trouble too. We want to be part of the process. We want to be involved. We want to make sure that the decisions you make are the right ones for everybody, not just for what some people may think or may suspect is for some nefarious reason, which we can't prove. I don't want that. I want a board that has character and credibility. And frankly, right now, it's hard to see that from the way it's being handled here, by how the information is coming out to the public, in the way it's coming out to the public, the way you are transparent with the public, and the way you think about the public. It seems to be silly, but you disappoint me in that respect. I would like to see I like to see you making an effort to try and recover that trust from the people here, because it's important that you do so. Because you're losing them a little bit at a time, and that's the trickle effect is killing us and you. Sorry about that, but that's the way I feel. Thank you very much.
Berto, 92 Chateau Terrace. Regarding 22 Chateau Terrace, the town needs to initiate an emergency enclosure on 22, which has been declared whatever. It's protected. It should be protected. It's a historic building. The town has declared it a historic building. What you're doing is allowing it to be demolition by neglect, pretty much like the garage was. You know, Beckerson got fined $500. What's going to happen with this if this building falls apart? The answer I keep getting is about the lawsuit. What lawsuit is this? Is this the lawsuit that the neighbors have filed?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that right now.
I mean, needs to be taken care of. It needs to be taken care of.
It's great. I understand that. And this board, in the landmark decision on the building, agreed. And the Historic Preservation Commission agreed. However, as long as there's a judge who's willing to grant more time for a resident's attorney to perfect an appeal before anybody can take any action on that property, we're stuck. So,
I mean, who's the town representing here? Who's the town
we have
representing?
the state Supreme Court justice, Fourth Amendment, the appellate division, who's told us don't touch it. So,
I mean, shouldn't the town be making an argument about that?
yes,
To protect
we have.
it? I mean, you know, what do we do? What do we do? Just let it go?
We have made the argument. We would like to move projects forward, including enclosing that building. However, we can't just tell New York State courts that we're gonna do it irregardless.
Well, one other thing, the property. People keep complaining about barriers that have been put up to prevent debris from blowing out. Once a month, they've got to be replaced. Why isn't the town inspecting this thing every week? Especially now, with the weather it is, if that fills up with snow, it's all gonna blow right across the vacant land, right on the chateau, right on the Board Harbor. Thank you.
Do I have to state my name again, or?
Yes.
Oh, Dennis Hogan, in case you hadn't heard that before. I have a present for Sean Lavin. This is what transparency looks like. There you go. No, that's for you.
Hey, thanks, Dennis.
So, interestingly enough, and amazing that the five of you all voted in favor of borrowing that money. It's astonishing, you know, to me. I mean that facetiously, of course. Ryan, I think you're rolling the dice here, and I think it's a poor decision that this board made tonight to borrow this $6 million. I pray that it works out, because I live in the town and I don't want to see us get stuck, but I think you're rolling the dice and you're gambling with the taxpayers' money. One of the things was said earlier, the town of Amherst is $178 million in debt. I don't know if you realize that. $178 million in debt. There's roofs that are leaking in the highway department. Maybe Jackie Berger should go down there and see where they park the trucks at night on a rainy day and see all the rain pouring in. And maybe she should go and, I think he should, the liaison for the highway department, maybe she should go down and look at some of the trucks. There's a $500,000 specialty truck that should have been replaced 5 years ago. There's all kinds of things. There was an engineer here from the Amherst Engineering Department that said when it rains for more than 4 hours, the sewers all back up on Millersport Highway. These are some pretty bad things that are happening throughout the town, and we're $178 million in debt, and you're rolling the dice, and you're gonna borrow another $6 million. It's very, very bad idea. And every one of your faces, and Marinucci, Berger, Culpa, Lavin, Zucala, your faces are on all these decisions, and you've made some very poor decisions over these years that you've been on this board. And I think this is a bad one too. So, is my time up? It's hard to believe. 10 seconds? Oh, I have 30 seconds? Wonderful. didn't want to put Captain Carey on the spot, you know, apologize for that, but I mean, I had some questions about what's going on with this Red Roof Inn. I'm really concerned that, you know, somebody's going to get hurt, or something. Even the people that live there are in danger. I think that there's gangs operating out of there. There's women that are getting raped. I think, you know, if you let the captain speak, I'm sure he doesn't want to speak, or maybe he even can't speak. But he could probably tell us how many times the police officers get calls over there. And, of course, we know that the police department's down about 6 or 7 officers at this point. It's not a good situation.
All right, your time's up. Thank you.
All right, thank you.